Dr. Marcus Webb pressed his palm against the cool metal of the observation window, watching as the alien world of Zarian rotated slowly beneath their ship. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment humanity's first diplomatic contact with an intelligent alien species. The planet's surface shimmered with crystalline formations that caught the light of its binary star system, creating patterns of rose and gold that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. "Webb, you ready for this?" Captain Elena Vasquez approached from behind, her reflection joining his in the reinforced glass. At 42, she commanded respect through competence rather than intimidation, her graying temples the only sign of the stress that came with leading humanity's most important mission. Marcus nodded, adjusting his collar nervously. As the team's Zenep psychologist, he'd spent countless hours studying the limited communications they'd received from the Nexari. Their messages had been surprisingly sophisticated, transmitted through quantum entanglement arrays that suggested technology far beyond Earth's current capabilities. Yet something in their language patterns had always struck him as oddly intimate, as if the speakers were sharing thoughts rather than just words. "Remember the protocols," Captain Vasquez continued. "We represent our entire species down there. No sudden movements, no cultural assumptions, and absolutely no personal attachments. This is diplomacy, not tourism." The landing bay of the Nexari capital ship was unlike anything in Marcus's extensive xenological training. The walls seemed to breathe with a soft, pearl-like luminescence, and the air itself hummed with an almost musical quality that made his skin tingle. When the airlock cycled open, Marcus followed Captain Vasquez onto what appeared to be a platform made of living crystal. That's when he first saw her. Empress Kaya stood at the center of a delegation of 7 beings, and Marcus immediately understood why the Nexari had been reluctant to share visual communications. She was breathtakingly beautiful in a way that seemed to transcend species tall and graceful, with skin that shifted between pearl and opal as she moved. Her hair floated around her shoulders as if suspended in water, and her eyes were the deep violet of Earth's twilight sky. But it wasn't her appearance that made Marcus's breath catch. The moment their eyes met across the landing platform, something extraordinary happened. Her voice whispered directly into his mind. "Welcome, Dr. Webb. I have been waiting to meet you." Marcus stumbled slightly, earning a concerned glance from Captain Vasquez. The Empress hadn't moved her lips. Her expression remained diplomatically neutral as she stepped forward to greet the human delegation. But Marcus could swear he felt her amusement at his confusion rippling through his thoughts like warm water. "Greetings, travelers from Earth," Empress Kaya spoke aloud, her actual voice carrying the same musical quality as the ship's atmosphere. "I am Kaya, Empress of the 3rd Nexari Collective. We welcome you to our domain." Captain Vasquez moved forward to deliver humanity's prepared greeting, but Marcus barely heard the words. His attention was locked on the Empress, whose violet eyes kept finding his with an intensity that seemed to pierce through his carefully maintained professional composure. "Can you hear me?" The voice came again, definitely hers, definitely impossible. Marcus felt his scientific mind reeling as he realized that first contact was about to become far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. Empress Kaya had ruled the 3rd Nexari Collective for 8 cycles, and in all that time, she had never experienced anything like the chaos currently flooding her mind. As she led the human delegation through the crystalline corridors of her palace, she fought to maintain her composure while Dr. Marcus Webb's thoughts crashed through her consciousness like a violent storm. "This is impossible," his mind whispered to hers. "Telepathy violates everything we know about neural biology and quantum mechanics." Commander Jin Torres, the human's military advisor, noticed her slight falter. His weathered face showed suspicion as he observed the way her luminescent skin flickered. Whenever she looked at Dr. Webb, Jin had seen enough combat to recognize when someone was hiding something important. "Your Majesty," Jin interrupted Captain Vasquez's diplomatic pleasantries. "Is there something we should know about your people's capabilities?" Kaya felt Dr. Webb's surge of panic at the question, followed immediately by his attempt to rationalize. What was happening? His scientific mind was cataloging every detail, theorizing about quantum entanglement in biological systems, wondering if this was how her species had developed such advanced communication technology. "Please," she projected. To him alone, "try to quiet your thoughts. Your mind is—" Very loud. The effect was immediate. Marcus's face went pale, and she felt his terror spike as he realized the communication was definitely real. His fear cut through her like a blade, and she had to grip the crystalline railing to steady herself. "Forgive me," she said aloud, addressing the entire group, while her eyes remained locked on Marcus. "The transition between our ship's atmosphere and the palace sometimes causes adjustment difficulties for visitors." It was a lie, and she could feel Marcus's recognition of her deception. Among her own people, Kaya's telepathic abilities were considered strong, but not exceptional. Every Nixari could read surface thoughts and share basic emotions. But what was happening between her and this human was something else entirely. She could feel not just his thoughts, but his memories, his dreams, even the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. When he remembered his sister's laugh, she heard it too. When he felt nervous, her own pulse quickened in response. It was the kind of deep mental bond that, according to Nexari law, was only supposed to occur between life mates. This can't be happening, Marcus thought desperately. "I'm a xenopsychologist, not a test subject." His distress was so acute that Kaya had to excuse herself from the formal tour. "High Counselor Zeth will continue showing you our cultural centers," she announced. "I must attend to urgent state matters." As she retreated to her private chambers, Kaya felt the other members of her telepathic council beginning to take notice of the unusual mental disturbance. High Counselor Zeth's ancient mind brushed against hers with concern. "Empress, what is this strange resonance we're sensing?" Through the crystalline walls, she could still feel Marcus's presence like a beacon in her consciousness. His confusion and fear were gradually giving way to scientific fascination, and she found herself drawn to the unique patterns of his thoughts, so different from any Nixari mind she'd ever encountered. "What have we done?" she wondered, knowing that both their worlds were about to change forever. Dr. Anya Volkov had earned her reputation as the solar system's leading expert in xenopsychology through her ability to remain calm in impossible situations. But as she watched Dr. Marcus Webb pace frantically around their assigned quarters in the Nexari Palace, she had to admit this situation was testing even her considerable composure. "She's in my head, Anya," Marcus said for the 10th time in an hour. "Not metaphorically, literally. I can feel her emotions, hear her thoughts. When she's happy, I feel warm. When she's distressed, it's like someone squeezing my heart." Anya made careful notes on her quantum tablet. "And you're certain this isn't some form of advanced technology? Perhaps a neural interface you're not aware of?" Marcus shook his head. "I've run every scan I can think of. There's no implant, no external device. Whatever this is, it's biological." He stopped pacing and looked at her with haunted eyes. "Anya, I think I'm falling in love with an alien empress, and she can feel every emotion I have about it." Before Anya could respond, the crystalline door to their quarters chimed with a visitor. High Counselor Zeth entered without waiting for permission, his ancient form moving with surprising grace. The elderly Nexari's skin had dulled to a deep bronze with age, but his violet eyes still blazed with sharp intelligence. "Dr. Volkov, Dr. Webb," he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "We need to discuss what has occurred between your colleague and our Empress." Anya straightened, switching to her professional demeanor. High Counselor, we're as confused as you are. Dr. Webb has never experienced anything like this before. Nor has Empress Kaya, Zeth replied gravely. What you call telepathy is natural for our species, but this is something else entirely. The bond between them resonates through our entire telepathic network. Even our younglings can sense it. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Are we in danger? Is the Empress? Zeth's expression grew troubled. There are ancient texts, prophecies written before our civilization, reached the stars that speak of a connection between minds across species. The translation is archaic, but it mentions thoughts that bridge the void between worlds, and minds that sing in harmony despite their foreign songs. What do the prophecies say happens next? Anya asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. Traditionally, such bonds are considered sacred among our people, Zeth explained, but they also require ... commitment, a permanent joining of consciousness. The texts suggest that attempting to sever such a connection once it's formed could be catastrophic for both parties. Marcus sat heavily on one of the living furniture pieces, which adjusted its shape to comfort him. Through their strange link, he could feel Kaya's presence in the palace above them, along with her growing anxiety about their situation. There's more, Zeth continued reluctantly. Such bonds between different species are explicitly forbidden under Nexari law. The punishment is exile from our collective consciousness, a fate worse than death for our people. And for humans? Anya asked. We don't know, Zeth admitted. This has never happened before. At that moment, Marcus felt a surge of emotion that wasn't his own Kaya's determination, mixed with desperate fear. Through their connection, he sensed her making a decision that would change everything. I won't let them punish you for something neither of us chose, her voice whispered in his mind. But Marcus, you need to know, the bond is growing stronger. Soon we may not be able to control it at all. As if summoned by her words, alarms began sounding throughout the palace, and Zeth's expression grew grim. The High Tribunal has been called, he said. Both of you will need to prepare for judgment. The Hall of Resonance stood at the heart of the Nexari capital, its crystalline walls designed to amplify telepathic communication across the entire collective. As Marcus entered the vast chamber, flanked by Captain Vasquez and Ambassador Holt, who had arrived on an emergency transport from Earth, he felt the weight of thousands of alien minds pressing against his consciousness. Judge Regent Myra presided from a throne carved from a single massive crystal that pulsed with soft light. Her ancient form commanded absolute authority, and when she spoke, her voice carried the power of the entire Nexari civilization. Dr. Marcus Webb of Earth, she intoned, you stand accused of forming an illegal telepathic bond with Empress Kaya, thereby violating our most sacred laws and threatening the stability of our collective consciousness. Ambassador Holt, a veteran diplomat with silver hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. Your Honor, my government was not informed that such bonds were possible between our species. Dr. Webb cannot be held responsible for an involuntary biological reaction. Involuntary? Judge Regent Myra's skin flared brighter. Our telepathic specialists report that the bond grows stronger each moment. Such connections require mutual consent and emotional resonance. This human has somehow seduced our Empress into forbidden communion. Marcus felt anger spike through him, both his own and Kaya's, who stood in a defendant's circle on the opposite side of the chamber. That's not what happened, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. Neither of us chose this. It just is. Through their link, he felt Kaya's gratitude for his defense, along with her growing despair. She had already been informed of the tribunal's likely verdict: exile from the collective consciousness for her, and expulsion from Nexari space. For the humans, there's something else, Kaya's voice whispered in his mind. Something the tribunal doesn't know yet. Oracle Nyx, the oldest living Nexari, suddenly spoke from her position at the edge of the chamber. Her voice was barely a whisper, but the acoustics carried it to every corner of the hall. The deep void stirs, she said, her milky eyes fixed on something only she could see. The ancient enemy awakens. The prophecy of the bridge mines comes to pass. A ripple of fear passed through the assembled crowd. Marcus felt Kaya's shock as she realized what Oracle Nyx was referring to something called the Void Devourers, creatures from the space between dimensions that had once threatened all sentient life in this galaxy. The old texts speak true, Oracle Nyx continued, her form beginning to glow with an otherworldly light. When thoughts sing across the species divide, when alien minds find harmony in discord, the bridge minds shall stand against the darkness that consumes consciousness itself. Judge Regent Myra's expression shifted from anger to uncertainty. Oracle, surely you don't mean. The bond between the human and our Empress is not a violation, Oracle Nyx declared. It is a weapon, perhaps the only weapon that can save us all. At that moment, the lights in the Hall of Resonance began to flicker, and Marcus felt something vast and hungry pressing against the edges of his consciousness, something that definitely wasn't Kaya. Captain Vasquez drew her sidearm instinctively. What's happening? Oracle Nyx's eyes found Marcus across the chamber. The Void Devourers have found us, young Bridge Mind. They feed on telepathic energy, consuming entire civilizations by devouring their collective consciousness. Your bond with our Empress creates a frequency they cannot digest, a harmony that burns them like acid. Marcus felt Kaya's terror and determination in equal measure. Whatever was coming, they would face it together, willing or not. The trial had just begun. A war council. General Pike had commanded Earth's defense forces for 2 decades, but he had never faced an enemy that could be killed by thinking the right thoughts. As his task force emerged from hyperspace around Zarian, he watched in horror as dark tendrils of nothingness swept across the planet's surface, leaving empty voids where cities had once stood. The Void Devourers consume consciousness itself, Oracle Nyx explained through the emergency communication link. Her ancient voice carried across space with disturbing clarity. They leave behind empty husks, beings with no thoughts, no dreams, no sense of self. Death would be a mercy compared to what they bring. In the Hall of Resonance, Marcus and Kaya stood at the center of a desperate telepathic network that now included both Nexari and humans. Captain Vasquez coordinated the military response, while Ambassador Holt worked frantically to establish communication protocols between species that had no common reference points for the threat they faced. Can you feel them? Kaya's voice whispered. In Marcus's mind, through their bond, he could sense the approaching darkness, a hunger so vast and alien that it made his soul recoil in terror. They're not just attacking the planet, Marcus reported to General Pike. They're attacking the concept of thought itself. Every mind they touch becomes ... nothing. Oracle Nyx stepped forward, her form now blazing with telepathic energy. The ancient texts were clear-only minds that sing in harmony despite their ray. Differences can generate the frequency needed to repel them. Dr. Webb, Empress Kaya, you must deepen your bond. Let your thoughts become one. That's impossible, Dr. Volkov protested. The neural integration required would kill us both if we get it wrong, Marcus finished. He looked across the chamber at Kaya, seeing his own fear reflected in her violet eyes. But if we don't try, everyone dies anyway. Judge Regent Myra, who had been silent since the attack began, suddenly spoke. The tribunal grants emergency authorization for the deepest form of telepathic bonding. Empress Kaya, Dr. Webb, the fate of both our species rests with you. As the Void Devourers pressed closer to the palace, Marcus and Kaya moved toward each other. The moment their hands touched, their minds exploded into union. Marcus felt himself dissolving and reforming simultaneously, his human consciousness merging with Kaya's alien thoughts to create something entirely new. We are Marcus Kaya, they thought together. We are human Nexari. We are the bridge between worlds. The telepathic frequency they generated was unlike anything either species had ever experienced. It was the sound of different melodies finding perfect harmony, the feeling of alien concepts translating into universal understanding, the light of two stars creating something brighter than either could achieve alone. The void devourers recoiled from this new frequency like living darkness fleeing from the dawn. Where their unified consciousness touched the empty voids, thoughts and dreams began to return. Cities reformed, minds awakened, and the hungry darkness retreated to whatever dimension had spawned it. When the battle was over, Marcus and Kaya found themselves changed forever. They could separate their consciousness when needed, but part of them would always remain connected, a living bridge between humanity and the Nexari collective. So what happens now? General Pike asked as his task force prepared to return to Earth. Oracle Nix smiled for the first time in centuries. Now we learn that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than either of our species imagined. The bridge minds have shown us that difference is not division, it is strength. As Marcus and Kaya stood together watching Earth ships depart for home, they knew their story was just beginning. Two species, countless worlds, and infinite possibilities lay ahead. Ready for the next adventure? Kaya asked through their permanent bond. With you? Marcus replied, always.